Zora and Me, Chapter 15. Zora's story about Mr. Pender wasn't a lie. It was her way of making things make sense, explaining our lives through a story. And just as stories guard the pictures of the shelves and worlds we cherish the most, sometimes we have to defend our stories. Monday at recess was one of those times. Stella Brazel led the enemy force. The boys were kicking a ball around the yard, playing every man for himself. We girls skipped rope in the grass, singing songs that mostly Zora had made up. We always played partners, and the rule was that one pair turned while another pair jumped. When Zora and I turned for Stella and Henny Clark, our voices kept time perfectly. We were so good they stayed in the rope for at least 50 jumps. I saw Pender with a gator snout, looking his way 'bout wore me out. But Mama's little child got good strong eyes. Mama's little girl don't tell no lies. Mama's little girl don't tell no lies. When it was our turn to skip and Stella's and Henny's duty to turn, they sang the song they sang punched us in the gut. No one saw Pender with a gator snout. That's a big old lie, there is no doubt. Some of Mama's children got lion eyes. Everybody knows that Zora lies. Everybody knows that Zora lies. We had stopped skipping rope after the first line, but we let Stella and Henny finish their song. We wanted to hear how it ended so we would know how hard to hit them. As soon as they stopped, I went after Henny, and Zora went after Stella. Teddy abruptly left the boys' kickball game to come over and see what was happening, and the rest of the boys followed right behind him. "What they do to y'all?" Teddy yelled out to Zora and me. Zora didn't hear him, but answered his question nonetheless. "Who you calling a liar?" Zora yelled as she charged Stella, tackling her from behind and yanking her thick braid. Then she paused, considering whether or not she was going to push Stella's face into a mound of moist soil. Stella blithered at the prospect of eating dirt, while the boys chanted, "Fight! Fight!" Hearing the commotion, Mr. Calhoun ran from inside the schoolhouse and pulled Zora off Stella. "I don't tell lies!" Zora shot at Stella, the defeated girl struggling to her feet. Zora squirmed in Mr. Calhoun's firm grasp. "I tell stories, and one of these days all y'all are going to find out they true. My stories are true." When I walked Zora home, her even dirtier than usual, both of us knowing she'd have to tell her mother about getting in a fight, we assumed that her bottom had an appointment with the switch off the Chinaberry tree. That didn't happen, for a reason we could have never guessed. There was a package waiting for Zora. It had been hand-delivered from the book salon in Lake Matland. Mrs. Hurston was so surprised at the arrival of a package for her youngest daughter that when Zora started to tell her story about what happened at recess, Mrs. Hurston just waved a hand for Zora to stop. She didn't have it in her to wait through the listening or give a whipping. She just handed Zora the brown paper package and looked at her expectantly. Zora held the bundle in her hands and stared at it. She read her name and address to herself 3 times, like she needed to convince herself it was really meant for her. She gave me a "what should I do" look, and I just shrugged. I'd never gotten a letter from anybody, let alone a package. She handed it to her mamma, who set it on the table, carefully untied the soft white twine, unfolded and opened the heavy brown paper, and lifted out of it a rich green volume. Zora gazed at the book. She turned it to see the marvelous spine and around to see the marbling of the page edges. Then she opened the cover. "Snidlets," the inscription read. "Knowledge unties knots."